I want to say a few words about this film. If I may, I want to dedicate it to my old town Brestowitz, who was 1,000 years old, who was a Jewish town that was wiped off by the Nazis. The town still exists, but no Jews exist. And I want to speak about my family that perished in the Holocaust with all the Jews of Brestowitz. And I thank my cousin for the opportunity to give me this chance. My cousin Sid Reed.
Is that the statement?
Okay, that's all. And this is sort of a connection of broken life, you know.
Can you say the name of that town again? What's the name of that town?
Brestowitz.
Brestowitz. So you were telling me that's where you grew up?
That's where I was born. And
what year?
1909.
What month?
April 1909.
So World War I is when?
It was 1914
to 1920.
To 1920.
Okay. Now, were they killing the Jews then? You said no.
What?
Are they killing the Jews during World War I?
No.
No.
No. There were pogroms in some towns where they killed the Jews, but not in our town.
Okay. And you were 5 years old, World War I starts?
Yes. And I remember it very well.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
At that time, I only had about 3 sisters. My fourth sister and my brother weren't born yet when the World War I broke out. About the war, I could tell you that the civilian population suffers maybe more than the soldiers. We suffer from lack of freedom. We suffer from lack of food. We suffer from the shootings, the bombs and things that were thrown, and we had to run every time to the Russian church because that was a brick church, a brick heavy wall. That was our shelter. So my mother used to take a blanket with the little tots, and we would walk and sit there until the shooting was over. But there was shooting almost every day.
Shooting who?
The Russians were fighting the Germans. And at that time they were defeated, the Russians, and the Germans occupied our part of the country. So we had the Germans for 4 years. That's what happened during World War I. And
okay.
There was shooting every day, and our house was hit by a bomb. It didn't explode fully, but I was standing with my mother near the table, and a big thing fell in the table right there.
You're joking.
We could have been killed in a moment.
What happened?
It just missed us by a few inches.
Well, did it explode?
It made a big hole in the table. It was a heavy table, so it made a big hole.
So it was like a cannonball?
I don't know. We
It
didn't
didn't
see
explode.
it. There was part of it that remained in the wall. It didn't come out, you know.
This is terrible.
Only part of it hit the house. those Germans were not the same like the Nazis. They were civilized people. What they did is they confiscated all the food, and we didn't have much food to eat. But otherwise, they built a school, they built a bathhouse, they kept this town clean. It had to be cleaned every day. They brought in a lot of sanitary improvements to that town. That was World War One.
You said they took the food.
They confiscated the food from the whole population.
Not just Jews.
Huh?
Not just Jews.
Not just Jews. But we didn't have non-Jews. We didn't have many. We just had a few families.
But then you get to World War II.
Of World War II, I was here.
How did you get here?
What do you mean, how?
How?
Like
Who?
all the immigrants get. Right?
But who decided you're the one who's going?
My father.
And he said you're going because?
I didn't want to go to America because I read Upton Sinclair, The Jungle. And when I read that book, I said, I don't like such a country. I don't want to go there. But I went anyway.
Who went to Canada with you?
Huh?
Who goes on the boat with you to Canada?
I don't know.
Did anyone go with you?
No.
Like Shirley went with
I
so-and-so.
was 19 years old. I went on my own.
How many suitcases did you have?
2.
And that was everything.
Yeah.
And you didn't speak English.
No. Just a few clothing.
What were you thinking at 19? You're on a boat with 2 suitcases going to a country with a language you don't speak.
Well, on the boat, I wasn't thinking about it because it was interesting, you know. But I was thinking about it when I came here. And I was standing by the window and crying. I'll never know English. I will never learn a trade. I want to go back.
Why did you leave Canada?
I didn't like Canada. I was there 6 months, and I didn't like it. It was too provincial for me.
Too provincial?
Yeah, coming
Canada.
from a small town. I didn't like
Coming
it.
from a small town in
It was-
Poland, you thought Canada was too provincial?
Too provincial. Montreal was too provincial for me. I didn't like it. I liked New York when I came here, with all the hustle and bustle. That I liked.
So you didn't learn French?
6 months.
You're smart.
I bought a mandolin, and and I taught myself how to play the mandolin.
Come on.
I taught myself
Who are you living with?
with a family. I paid so much and so much a month.
You had money with you, or they
I
mailed
had
the money?
a few dollars. I didn't have much money with me.
So your father made
But
these
I
arrangements.
started
He gives
working. I started working in Montreal.
you as what?
By a dressmaker with an old machine that I could work on. We had a machine in the house, so I could work on an old machine, but not on an electric one. And I earned $5 a week, and that was enough for
You earned
board and food.
$5 a week
$5 a week.
operating a non-electric sewing machine?
Yeah.
So what'd you do, with your feet?
Huh?
You do it with your feet?
Yeah.
Like in the movies?
Yes. do you say it? I went over the border
Border.
illegally. They packed me in a car and covered me up with all kinds of things.
Shirley,
In Canada.
they
and-
packed you in a car,
Yes.
covered you with all kinds of things, and drove across the border
Yes, and we went
like a movie.
we smuggled at night. It took several hours until we reached the border.
So he gets across the border, and where do they go?
And they put me to the train and they got
What train?
There was a train
A train.
going to New York. So they put me on the train and I had a mandolin in my hand, 19 years old.
You
So I
still have the
traveled-
two suitcases?
Ah,
Did you still have the two suitcases?
yeah.
And
So-
a mandolin
Yeah.
you're carrying by hand?
By hand.
You can't be
So
you're joking,
the
right?
conductor saw a young girl with a
With a
mandolin.
mandolin.
So he took care of me. All the travel to New York, it takes a long time by time.
Yeah.
So he took care of me, you know.
Ah.
And then when we arrived in New York, my uncle Mendel was waiting for me.
Your uncle.
Yeah. Your grandfather.
Mm-hmm. So, how did you end up in the garment district?
When I came here, there was nothing else for a new immigrant to do. There were no other jobs, you know. This was the only place you could go and learn a trade. So I went and I learned the trade.
Who brought you there?
Ah,
Somebody must have brought you there.
my uncle sent me myself in New York to look for the street, and I found it.
Kidding.
I was enterprising, you know, at 19.
Very.
Not now.
But still no English.
No. It took me a few years until I started speaking English.
So what did you do there? You
I-
knew fabrics, you told me.
It had nothing to do with my knowing fabrics. The boss put me next to a man, and the man was showing me how to work, and he would say at the end of the day, "You'll never learn how to work." So
He
I-
said to you
Yeah, and
that
I-
you would never learn.
Yeah, and I came home and I used to cry because I'll never learn.
Oh, God.
But I learned.
You would go home and cry because you would never
Yes.
learn?
That's right.
And in Canada, you cried because you just couldn't stand being there? A rough life.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy life for a new immigrant, for a young person. It was pretty hard.
It sounds terrible.
Yeah,
But adventure.
but we didn't know
it's
any
adventure.
better. You see,
You didn't know any better.
right?
Okay.
This pillow I embroidered when I was 14 years old.
Oh, come on.
Yes. And
This pillow.
And I kept it hidden
You
all the
embroidered
time.
this at 14?
Yes.
This
yes.
part too?
Yes.
Not this.
The whole thing. I embroidered this pillow, but it's
At
falling
14?
apart now.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute. How could you still have it? You brought this in one of the two suitcases?
Yes,
You brought a pillow.
yes. I had several ones. I had another one. I gave it to Barbara. She has some of them.
I don't understand. You come over with two suitcases and you have two pillows in the suitcase? Two pillows in the suitcase?
Pillows? No.
This is a pillow.
But I had it without the pillow. It just had the case. The pillow I put in here.
Oh, you just had the fabric top.
Right.
Okay. You're a seamstress again now.
Yeah,
And you worked how long at the machine?
47 years.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. you worked for 47 years at that machine.
At a machine, not at that machine. We changed jobs, you know.
Okay, but that's what you did for 47 years?
Yes.
And how long did you live here?
46. But I moved here when I retired already.
Just so people understand, we're in West Chelsea
I just
somewhere.
worked a few years here, and then I retired. At 66, I retired.
From this machine. Did you do the same thing every day?
You know a little about the fashion industry. It's not the same thing. Every day is something else.
Mm-hmm.
It's fashion.
Mm-hmm. You did high-end fashion, somebody told me?
Yes, I did high fashion.
You.
Lisa Minnelli was wearing one of our dresses that I made.
Who?
Liza Minnelli.
Uh-huh. She wore a dress that you made.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
And I was very proud. I saw it on TV. I saw the dress.
And you helped make the dress.
And I used to see our dresses in Lord and Taylor in the window.
Lord and Taylor?
Yeah.
So, your parents, I was wondering why they didn't go with you to Canada?
I told you my mother was afraid to leave her riches.
Her riches?
Yeah. They weren't poor people, they were middle class. And she was afraid she'll lose her fortune. Well, two sisters were in Palestine and I was here, so they still had 3 children there, 2 daughters and a son, and my parents.
You go away and live, and they stay there and die.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Yeah,
The whole family?
the whole family, and Hitler took care of them.
Now, you have a sister, Rachel, and Rosa.
Rosa was in Palestine.
And Raquel, Rachel.
She was in Palestine too. The 2 of them were in Palestine.
And how did they get there?
They were Zionists. They were pioneers. There was such an organization as pioneers. So they volunteered, you know, and they were trained to work on land there.
So why didn't you go there?
Huh?
Why didn't you go there?
I didn't want to go to Palestine.
The weather. How come?
Because I wasn't a Zionist. I don't believe in their theory. You know what they were talking about at that time?
Tell me.
To conquer the land and to conquer the work from the Arabs. But I found my sisters through the Red Cross and through an Israeli newspaper. I advertised. My sisters were immigrants to Palestine in 1935. I never heard of them. If you could find them for me, please do. And they did.
Who's they?
The Red Cross and the Israeli newspaper.
They found your sisters for you.
And they called me up and they gave me their names and addresses and they gave them my address. At that time I had no family anymore. The family was perished. This was after the war already. That's how I found them. And when I went to Israel by boat, I was standing on deck and my sister was downstairs shouting my name. So I said, "Who are you, Rachel or Rosa?" I didn't see them in 25 years. I didn't know who they were. And that's how I found them, and then we became family again. I came to America at the very end of 1928, December 1928. I came just a few months before the banks crashed, the Wall Street crash. Times were hard. We worked for, my wages were $7, $8 a week. No union. We worked about 48 hours a week. So we were organized and the union became sort of a force. They started in a way to improve conditions in the shop, but very soon they were corrupted and they worked with the bosses instead with us. So we, the people in the shops, organized an opposition to the union. We had an opposition of over 5,000. When they used to make elections every 2 years, we got over 5,000 votes. And they were afraid that one day we'll take over the power, the left. So they started persecuting us.
How?
And discriminate against us.
How?
And call us all kinds of names. And in the press they called me the Red Shirley.
Why you?
Because I spoke at the meetings.
You spoke?
Yes, I used to take the floor. And
You hardly knew English.
no, I knew by then. I knew English already.
And
It
you
was
could speak in public? You're a public
1936.
speaker?
I could speak, sure. And I spoke and I used to expose the conditions in the shop.
you
And when I
you
went,
exposed the conditions in
I
your shop?
did.
You?
and
Didn't
when
they try to beat you up or do something?
they tried to stop me, they only gave me 5 minutes. How much can you say in 5 minutes? They took
Bail out.
as much time as they wanted.
They
And
could.
me, they gave 5 minutes. But the workers used to start, "Let us speak. She's saying what we want." And my stomach was churning when I spoke. Don't think I wasn't afraid. We took up the fight for the trade. And
All these workers, how did you become the one who talks?
because I worked in an Italian shop, and the only Jewish woman, and
In an Italian shop.
yeah,
In
and
the
the
garment
bosses
district.
were Italian too. And the boss was everything to them. Whatever the boss said, they followed.
Hmm.
So I would carry on the fight single-handedly in the shop, in the union, wherever there was a progressive worker in a shop, he fought for conditions. I wasn't the only one. We were a group of 5,000 people that fought against the corruption, I told them, "You think that we have democracy here. You think that we have equal right. No. I am one and they have 10 people. That's how it goes here." So one of the leaders of the Israelis said to me, "You must be the black sheep in the family." So I said, "No, I'm the red sheep in the family."
Hmm.
Equal rights for the black people. I was there. There was 1 million people and I was amongst the million. And it so happened that I was in front.
How did you end up in front?
I don't know. I don't
What do you
remember
mean you
even.
don't know?
Ah,
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't remember
Can't
even.
just people probably tried to kill each other to
It
get up
was a
front.
million people. Who remembers?
1 million people and you ended up front?
Yes. Not the first row, but front. I saw him and I heard him.
You heard him? Better than you hear me.
I heard him, and they had a singer whom I liked very much, Mahalia Jackson, and she sang spirituals, and we were standing and crying. It was so moving, the whole thing, you have no idea. It's like living through a lifetime, you know?